Hey gang, it's me, it's Shannon. Sheepless Needles, vegan podcast, not about being vegan, where we do all sorts of fun stuff. Like talk about knitting, we talk about reading, we talk about life, bunnies and cats and life. That's what we talk about, guys. And beer. Today. Okay, roof juice. Hold on. I need to get to the eye doctor, people. I just do. Okay, so this is a hazy IPA. It is 5.5, so it's not bad. This is a good afternoon beer. I think I've had this on the feed before. It's refreshing. It's what we need. Listen, it's hot outside. Now, it's not like Arizona hot, but it's hot. So like if you're in a place where it's really hot, please check on your neighbors, check on neighborhood animals, make sure everybody has water and is hydrating. Listen, if you've got elderly neighbors, please check in on them. I'm always amazed when I talk to my parents who are in Florida and my mom will tell me, oh, your dad's not feeling very well. He's just, real tired and lethargic and just doesn't feel right. Has he had any water today? Nope. They don't remember to drink water. I don't know what it is. Are your parents like that? I don't know. Check in on your elderly folk. That's what I'm saying. So, yes. Chaz. So, on today's episode, we're going to talk about what I'm wearing. I've got two other projects that I'm working on that we're going to kind of talk about, a couple stumbling blocks that I'm running into that I need your help with. So let's get into it. Before we really get into it, though, I do want to say thank you to each and every one of you who commented on my last episode. I wanted to let you know that Maggie, my cat, went in for her checkup right after I filmed that and got glowing remarks. Her blood panel came back. Her numbers are looking good. She gained the weight back that she had lost. So she's doing really well, and it's very unusual for a cat in her age bracket with her condition to be doing as well as she's doing. So I could not be happier. She is so happy that she doesn't care about me. In fact, she's upstairs with Mr. Editor. Not that I'm feeling like chopped liver or anything. I'm just saying. Okay, so let's talk about what I'm wearing. First, the thing on my head. My hair is a disaster. Code red on the hair, you guys. I have a haircut coming up. I need to shit or get off the pot. I'm either cutting it off or I'm growing it out, and I've got a hair going in my eye. I don't know which I'm going to do. You'll find out in the next episode. Dude, I don't know. We'll see. So anyway, this is one of the very first things I ever knit. I think I showed you the very first project I knit last podcast, which was that shawl. This is just like a bandana. I really do think... I don't even know if I used a pattern for this. Probably. This may be from Stitch and Bitch, maybe? Because that's how I started knitting, was that book. So, I don't know. If I figure it out, I'll put it in the show notes. It's super comfy, and listen, it hides a lot. You can't ask for more. Comfortable and hiding. Okay. Man, I hope our refrigerator's okay, because that beer is not as cold as it normally is. That's a little concerning. Another problem for another day. You know what I'm saying? So, you guys, this wonderful, wonderful garment I'm wearing, which I'm in love with. Love it. I love it so much. This is called the Oasis. It's by Yumiko Alexander. Hope I pronounced everything correctly there. I found this pattern and this designer because of my enabling sister, who knit a top by the same designer, and I'd kind of forgotten about it, but I remembered when she had originally started knitting her particular top, She called me about the yarn to see if I'd ever knit with the yarn that was recommended, which was Dandoh Yarn, and I had not. And I went to the website, I was like, whoa, that's expensive yarn. So I kind of walked away from it. Well, fast forward, I found this design, and then I was looking at the yarn again, and I realized, well, really, for what it isn't as expensive as I thought. So this particular pattern calls for, you can do it two different ways. I knit it in a linen that's a 3-weight, or you could knit it in a lace weight held double. Lace weight is questionable, and this is where the Dandoh yarn comes in. They have a yarn that is called Cotton Fine. It's 437 yards for 50 grams. And if you're using that yarn, which is what the pattern was written for, you're holding it double. So this linen that I chose to knit with is not from Dandoh Yarns. It's, what is it? Hang on. I have a ball band somewhere. Here we go. It is this. And hold the line here. I love this. It's 100% linen, and I have no complaints. It is 137 yards and 50 grams. The pattern itself called for a linen that was like, I think 125 yards per 50 grams. So really not much of a difference there. And you don't hold it double. It's just a sport weight. Oh, just hit me. I hit myself in my face. I really, really enjoyed knitting with it. It as you can look at the yarn, it does have a sheen to it. And that sheen, I've washed it once, and it's not, I think it still has the sheen, but not as much. So I think the kind of sheath on the yarn fiber is coming off, which is normal for linen, which will soften it up, and it'll get drapier and drapier, which I'm very excited about. All right, so here's the pattern. Again, it's called Oasis, and that gives you a little bit of the lace detail that, oops, I'm covering. Whoop, wrong arm. Stage exit left, Shannon. Come on. Okay, so yeah, it was 124 yards per 50 grams in the linen that they called for. I have never used Dandoh Yarns, and then when I went back to the website, I was like, wait a second, if it's 437 yards and 50 grams, when you multiply everything out, it really wasn't as expensive as I thought it was. So if you have knit with Cotton Fine by Dandoh, or if you've knit with any Dandoh yarns, please leave a note in the comments, because I'm really curious about it. I'm trying to do a no buy year, which, I already failed at because I bought the yarn for the baby blanket, but that was also budget yarn. It was Premier. It wasn't, hand dyed yarn or anything. So let me know, because one day I will buy Dandoh yarn, because you guys, please go check out this designer. Stunning. I love everything, and I want to knit everything. So you know how I was on that Stephen West kick, which I've never gotten off of? I'm now going to be on a kick for this. So you will see more from this designer in the future. The thing that I really liked about knitting this particular piece is, one, it wasn't fingering weight, which sometimes you need a break, right? So that was good. But it also was such an interesting pattern that the thing that really kind of stunned me a little bit, because typically I'm a visual person, and I can see things before I do them. So an example would be like, when you're painting, when you pick out a paint color, I generally know what the room is going to look like once it's loaded. And I know a lot of people, when they put paint on a wall, they can't visualize what the room's going to look like. And so they hate this paint color, but they haven't even loaded anything on the walls. So I'm always like, how do you not, I don't know. I'm just visual that way. What stunned me is when I was in the process of knitting this, I could not figure out where on the garment I was knitting. Part of that's because, I skim patterns. I don't read them thoroughly. We know that. I fly by the seat of my own pants, and it doesn't do me any favors, but that's just kind of the way I am. So when you start knitting it, I was like, I don't understand, like when I was knitting, where is this on my body? Like when I put it on, I have no idea the orientation of what I'm knitting. And it wasn't until I was at the very end of the pattern, I was like, oh, I get it. The thing that's really cool about it is there's a, whoops, wrong side. There's a sleeve, you guys. You knit in a sleeve. So, which I'm sure if you didn't want it, you wouldn't have to. It'd be more like a poncho. Or you could knit a sleeve in on this side, which just kind of lays over your shoulder. You could do that too. And it would be, I mean, you could adjust that. The one thing for me that I would adjust in the future, if and when I will knit it again, and I think it's more of a when, not an if, because I loved this, I will probably bring in the neckline a little bit so it's not as big, because as usual, when I knit things to pattern, I don't think about the fact that I don't have boobs. And people with boobs, it will pop out the neckline, and the neckline will not be as drastic as it is on somebody who's flat-chested. And I mean, if it really starts to bother me, I can always do like a little stitching, you know, and stitch it a little bit, but I actually like it off the shoulder, so I'm probably not going to touch it. But that was the only thing that I wish I kind of paid attention to. So if you are somebody who's going to knit this and you are like me and you are not well endowed, maybe come in like 10 rows on the neck, and that will make sense when you're doing the pattern. I'm not going to explain it because it's a paid for pattern. Go get yourself that pattern. It is so worth it. And you guys, when I was knitting this, I was knitting 2 other projects and it went by really quickly. I do not remember my cast on date. So Mr. Editor is going to put on the screen for you, the cast on date and the cast off date. You will see how long it took me to knit this, and it wasn't long. And especially if you think about the fact that I'm only knitting after work and I'm knitting 2 other projects alongside it. So keep that in mind. If you have someone you need a quick gift for, like you know it's coming up in 2 to 3 weeks, you can totally get this done. And I think it would make a great gift knit, because it's not really size. You don't need to worry about size so much. There are 2 options for size. This is the first size. There is a larger size. The larger size, I think, would be really, really, I think it would be probably too big for a gift knit maybe. But the first size, which is the one that I did, I think is perfectly fine. And I think, you know, you could do different things. You could do a fingering weight with a lace weight held together. You could do 2 lace weights held together. You can do any 3 weight you want to do. You could even do this in a 4 weight. It's just going to be a different size, right? Like I think there's a lot of way to customize this. I chose 100% linen because I knew I was going to be wearing it over either like a tank top or a dress or something like that, where I wanted something that was covering but not like holding in heat, because hello, I don't need to go on about the heat. It's hot, right? So great gift knitting. Go get yourself this pattern, worth every penny. Worth every penny. So while I was knitting this, oh, and by the way, I knitted on these puppies, 10.5s. It's a big needle. That's all I'm saying. Okay, so how much yarn did I use? I should tell you that. I had 5 skeins of this. I have 1 left. So I did not even use, in fact, I don't really know how much the pattern actually uses. Like, she doesn't tell you her final tally. She just says buy 5 skeins. So I've got an extra skein. I will probably put this in, I'll probably put it in a shawl that's all like a multicolor shawl, probably like a Stephen West make along. This'll make an appearance. So really 4 skeins was enough for me. And again, mine was 137 yards per 50 grams, if that gives you any idea. But I also think, well, no, I'm not going to say that. Never mind. Ignore the thought that was just coming to my, because it's not, no. What? Okay, so that was this. I'm trying to make room. Okay, so you guys, the next thing that I was knitting on was, hold on. Okay, the next thing I was knitting on was this, and this is the Prairie Grove blouse. Samantha Stadter? Yes, Samantha Stadter. Okay, so this is a fingering weight top that has lace on the front and it's like solid stockinette on the back, but it's got, I don't know if you can tell in this photo, it's got kind of fitted sleeves. So while it's really boxy and loose in the body, it's a little more fitted on the sleeve. And I kind of like that, you guys. We're going to hope I like it as I knit it. But here's what's going on. I'm bored. And part of it was because I was knitting this while I was working on all of this. And this top was so much fun to knit. And right now, where I'm at on this, I'm just doing stockinette and I'm bored. And it's very color blocky. And why is it color blocky? Well, kind viewer, I will show you. This is the yarn I'm using. This is from Hobie. It's Twirls Deluxe, I believe. It's 100% cotton. This is one of the very first yarns I bought. And it has been in my stash for years and years and years and years. So it's like, I'm using it. I don't even care. Now, the thing about the Prairie Grove top is, I say this, I don't even know. I'm pretty sure it's bottom up. I don't read my patterns in advance. Like, I just knit and okay, I think it's bottom up. And I know I'm on the back because there's no lace work in the section. So what I'm excited about is by the time I'm rolling over to the front, right, I should be over here. I should be getting darker. And I love the idea of this being color blocky, where it is like a different color sequence on the front than the back. But because it's variegated in the yarn, there will be threads of the brighter color on the back in the front, just in a different kind of way. I can't wait to see what it looks like. I'm so stoked for this. Now, everybody keep your fingers crossed because this is a little bit under the yardage that the pattern calls for. We're just going to leave it at that. Not a lot, a little. Now, what I'm wondering is if that's the case, I believe the construction is you do the back, you do the front, and then you do the sleeves. So I'll just make the sleeves a little shorter. Or maybe it'll just be one sleeve. Again, keep your fingers crossed. Now, my issue with this, there's no issue. The pattern's written really well. It's just, I'm bored, you guys. It's stockinette and it's boring. I need a squirrel. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just stock it back and forth. Good TV knitting, I'm sure. But it's just, I'll do like 8 rows and I'm like, oh, I got to do something else. And that's the other thing. It's fingering weight and it's stockinette. So you'll be knitting for like 2 hours and you look down and it looks like you've done 3 rows. It's like, really? I love fingering weight yarn. I love the way that things look when you complete them, but they take forever. They just take forever. Okay, so that is project number 2, I guess. And then the third project, okay, this is the one, guys. We need to have a talk. It's an after-school special. Get ready. Okay, it's the Stag Beetle tee. Alexandria Wenninger is the designer. It's super cute. I mean, look at it, right? Now, I'm just saying, and I think I've brought this up before, and maybe it didn't make it into the podcast. Super cute. But just judging by the way that's fitting, she either highly adjusted the pattern while she was knitting it. Well, that's not fair. She adjusted the ease while she was knitting it because the pattern does not have that in it. Or this is pinned in the back. And here's the thing. To me, it doesn't matter one way or the other. The reason why I think this looks like it's pinned in the back is where her chest is, her bust is, underneath the arms. It just looks to me like from the bust to the belly button, I feel like it might be cinched in the back. Maybe it's tucked in back, and that's why it's doing it. But and it doesn't really matter, but here's the thing. When I first started working, my first job was in clothing retail. So I've dressed a lot of mannequin in my day, and you always pin stuff to make the front look better. You just do. And listen, there are times like where I've worn like a blazer or something on top of like a really cute top. That cute top is probably pinned in the back, and I'm not taking my blazer off. I'm just saying, there are ways you can trick the eye. And I do feel like after looking at project pages and other people's photos of them wearing it, I'm just saying, I'm just putting that out there. It's not, and that is not a dig. It sounds like I'm making a dig, and I'm really not. But the reason why I want to bring that up is I don't want to look at that picture and have any remote feeling that mine is going to look anything like that. Because one, I don't have the bust that she has. Two, it's just not going to look that good. Let's just be real. Hers looks fabulous. Mine's not going to look that fabulous. And that's okay. Now, I've just started knitting it. And by just, I mean, I'm like literally 11 rounds in, I think. So really just started. The yarn that I'm using is Knit Picks Comfy, Plum, and Planetarium. This is the main color. This is the contrast color. This is the color that the Beetle will be. And here's the issue, guys. I love the way color work looks. I suck at it. I'm just really bad at it. I have tried color work in a variety of different ways. The way I'm most comfortable doing color work, because I throw with my right hand, I just drop a color and pick up a color and go. Now, what that means is I have to be very cognizant of how tight I pull a stitch, because the result more often than not for me with color work, because I knit that way, is I pull too tight and the color work will pucker. That's hard to say. Color work will pucker. Now, so I decided with this particular project, I'm going to try to knit it with one color in my left hand, one color in my right hand. So I'm throwing, and then I'm continental, whatever you call it. I don't know. My tension is awful. And I knew it was going to be a test run, and I knew I was going to have the possibility of having to frog and start over. The good news is that the color work for the pattern really, I don't know if you can tell, takes place like here, and it's bottom up. So you're starting with the color work, so that if I don't like what I'm doing, frogging it is not nearly as drastic as if it was top down and I'm all the way down at the bottom. And then I'm tinking back and then not able to figure out where to stop tinking, and then I frog the whole thing. You know how that goes. So in knowing that I am trying a new method, keep your that's a hot mess, Shannon. Keep it to yourself. I already know it's a hot mess, and I already know I'm probably frogging it. But here's what's happening. I don't know if you can see this, but this bottom section is supposed to be ribbing, and I'm not pulling this. Do you notice that it's already stretched out? Like ribbing's supposed to come together and then you stretch it. I don't know what I have done, but obviously it's color, you're knitting in the main color and you're purling in the contrast color. So the contrast color is in my left hand and the main color is in my right hand, because the pattern calls out for the contrast color to be dominant in the first section of color work. And in my case, the dominant color would be the blue for that. So the ribbing is a hot mess because it's not really ribbing, right? Like, it's just not. But the color work, let me back up. It's super loose. Like, it's the opposite problem I had from my Halloween sweater where I was way too tight and it was puckering. This isn't puckering, but it's like you can see there's like gaps and there's holes. Now, will that fix itself when I block it? I don't know because I didn't do a gauge swatch. I know. Listen, we've been through this. Seat of pants flying away. So my quandary is, do I just frog this and try it the way that I'm used to knitting and see if that works? Part of me, because I've got extra yarn over here, well, not extra yarn, but I've got yarn, is to start a second one and do a hybrid method where for the ribbing, I'm knitting with one hand, like I'm doing it with one hand. But then when I get to the color work, try to do it in one hand, but have the yarn separated on my finger. Guys, I don't know about it. I don't know. Now, the other thing that I do want to talk about, which is why I'm going to hold off on frogging. The technique for the color work in this pattern that's called out is a technique that I have never done. It's called Jacquard Ladderback. And it's basically a way of catching your floats behind your work. And when you flip the work over, and I will leave you links to different videos about this technique in case you're interested in the show notes. So go check that out. But when you flip the work over, it is literally like a second, it's almost like double knitting, where there's a second netting of fabric in the non-dominant color, or in what you're trying to catch, right? Your floats, so that they create this net in the back of the work. And what that does is a couple things. It allows for you to catch your floats and not be able to see the contrast color or what the other colors behind the color that you're knitting with. With color work, if you're anything like me, and you pull too tight or anything like that, a lot of times when you look at the block of color work, you can see the color that you're not knitting with behind, like it pokes through, like it's almost like it's stretched out and you can see it. The ladder back technique is supposed to help with that. It also helps with tension where you're not pulling too taut, you won't have the puckering. Now, in theory, that sounds great to me. When I've watched a series of videos so far, I looked at it, I was like, oh, I can't do anything other than do that while I'm doing it until I get used to using the technique. Because for my brain, it seems very complicated. For all of you, you're probably like, oh yeah, that makes total sense, or you've done it before. Let me know in the comments, what do you have a special technique you use for catching floats? There's a lot of different techniques out there. This is the first time I've actually bought a pattern that is like, this is the technique that I'm using. Here are tutorials. Like, she lays it out. So part of me does not want to frog this because like, I already know I'm going into a test segment of like doing a technique I've never done before that I'm probably going to have to frog anyway, which I'm fine with. So I think what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to continue on and I'm going to start the pattern and start the new technique and see what it looks like, and see how I do with it. If I am a train wreck with it and it's not working at all, obviously I'm gonna frog and do it a different way. If it's not a train wreck and I actually like the way it looks, I'm probably gonna frog and redo the bottom color work so it doesn't look, I mean, no one's ever gonna notice this. It's the bottom 2 inches of the t-shirt. I don't know. When I get there, we will talk because it's probably going to be at least 2 weeks before I have a good idea if I like the new technique or not. If you have done ladder back, let me know. Let me know if you find it to be better than, left hand, right hand, using a ring, whatever it is. So that's the state of the Stag Beetle tee. Jury out. we know I like to challenge myself. And my favorite thing is when I pick the pattern, of course I didn't read it. And once I was like, oh, there's a little more to this pattern than I thought. And yeah, there is. Like life. You just got to roll with the punches, people. You got to just roll with the punches. So those are my projects right now. I am going to cast on my witching hour because I just realized it's almost the end of July. I want to wear my witching hour this winter. So I need to start on it now or I'm not going to have it done when cold weather hits. And I'll be knitting on it next March when it's no longer cold. So I may end up hibernating one of these projects and working on that. We'll see. Now that is another color work thing. And again, I want to try the ladderback technique because maybe I'll want to do that for the witching hour. I don't know. I just don't know, you guys. I need your help. You got to weigh in. You got to weigh in because your girl needs some help. Okay, so other things that are going on. Terrapin Fiberworks. Hopefully this is not all sold out by the time Mr. Editor gets this edited and I get it on the YouTubes for you. But Terrapin Fiberworks released a new family of dyeing called, it's her Icelandic collection. Family of dyeing. She released a new collection. What is wrong with me? Hi. Anyway, it's beautiful, you guys. It's stunning. Now, you know, this is supposed to be my no-buy year. I broke my promise. I purchased some of the yarn because it's frigging stunning. And you will not blame me when you look at it. My plan is what I purchased, I'm hoping to be able to use for the fall make-along, the Stephen West make-along, which is a shawl that's usually 5 colors. Watch this year, it'll be 1. If I cannot use it for that, there are 3 other projects from Stephen West that I want to knit that I can use this yarn for. So I know it's going to be a West knit project. Which project it will be is up in the air. But when I tell you the darker colors in this collection are stunning, we're just lucky that I don't make like more money than I do because I would be buying a lot of yarn. And there is one colorway in there that I was like, I want my entire wardrobe to be this. I just can't afford it. So go check that out. Hopefully it hasn't sold out. Her yarn bases are wonderful. I've used her Chesapeake fingering, her Chesapeake DK. I've used the Potomac fingering. I have not used it yet, but I have purchased it, which is her Tencel base. She's got lots of bases. They're beautiful. Go check it out. Don't get mad at me when you're spending the money that you don't want to be spending. It's not my fault. It's her fault. You blame her. So that's my yarn inspiration that will be coming in. And that's really it, you guys. Diablo 4, we all know, I talked about that last time. This new season has just started this past Friday. It's Sunday. I have only logged in once. I created a druid. I'm okay with it. I don't love it. So I'm probably going to create a different character. So if you catch me online, you need to send me a message. Let me know you're there, and I will try to hook up and we can go run a dungeon or something. The other exciting thing that happened is I had a company picnic yesterday that we went to, and it was so much fun. I won, you guys. I won in a raffle 1 paid day of vacation. Dudes, that's huge. And Steve on the drive home was like, what are you going to do with your vacation day? He's like, I think you should just take a day off and do Shannon things. I was like, I think I'm going to do that. I don't know what Shannon things are, but we're sure going to find out. So I'm very excited about that. And then Steve won. Mr. Editor won. He's going to kill me. Steve, whatever it is, it's like an impact driver. I asked him, what do you use it for? He's like, nuts and bolts. What? No, I don't know what you use it for. But he won that. It was a great day. We had a covered area that we had picnic tables under, so that was perfect. I sunblocked, but I missed part of my forehead. You guys, there is a corner of my forehead underneath here that is completely sunburned and then nothing else is. So make sure when you're putting sunblock on, you cover your whole noggin and don't miss a section of your forehead like I did. The other thing, have you know that feeling, like it is an undescribable feeling, but when you're covered in sunblock all day and then you bathe and you get it off, that your skin is finally breathing again, that freshness. Dudes, when I washed my face last night, I was like, I want to feel this way forever. It felt so stinking good. Ah, I love a fresh feel. But yeah, so great day. Anyway, while we were there, the whole point of this is that I met some people who work for the parent company that bought us, who are D&D players, and I'm getting invited to a Call of Cthulhu campaign, and I'm so excited. You guys, Call of Cthulhu is probably one of my favorite genres. I'm very intimidated by it because it is kind of a rule-heavy system, but apparently the DM for this is phenomenal. So I am super stoked. I'm hoping it works out. I think we have the Call of Cthulhu books upstairs, so I need to go upstairs, do some reading, pick out a character. I'll let you know what I end up doing. But I always kind of like doing like either the really pissed off waitress type of Call of Cthulhu character who's working in a diner who just, or I want to be somebody who just is like down on their luck in Call of Cthulhu and doesn't have anything to lose by going and investigating. Like, I don't know. So we'll see. We'll see where I land on that, but I'm super stoked about that. So that's my D&D news. We have my knitting news, my D&D news, my work news. That's my news. What's your news? Snooze? What you got? What's going on? Let me know your life happenings in the comments. Well, you don't need to tell me your whole life in the comments, but like if you have anything exciting going on, let the people know. Let's see what's going on. Let's share some ideas, some inspirations. That's all I got for you. Go enjoy the rest of your week, I guess, because I don't know when this is going to go up. But again, please, if you are in an area that is suffering with this heat, check on your neighbors, check on everybody. Make sure everybody's got water, everyone's okay. Yeah. Look out for one another, okay? All right. That's all I got for you. I love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. I will see you in 2 weeks. So in the meantime, take care of yourselves so you can take care of one another. Love yourself so you can love one another. And, go pet a cat or a dog or a bunny or a turtle or a frog or say hi to an animal. You know what I mean? I love you guys. Toodles!